So who is Mach One Financial? We're a veteran-owned financial services firm. As you might have seen in an earlier video, I have a fighter pilot background. I was in the Air Force and flew the F-16 and the T-38 for a number of years. But this is who we are and what we do. We do comprehensive retirement planning. We specialize in private pensions, 401k rollovers, estate and income tax minimization, as well as a host of other things. Now, you might be thinking, what does being a fighter pilot have to do with being a financial advisor? And actually, it's more than you might originally anticipate. Being in the fighter pilot world, it's obviously a dangerous business. And basically what it is, if you think about it, if you boil it down, it's complex problem solving when your life literally depends upon it. And you might have heard before that business is combat. Well, whenever you're investing in the market, which is what we do for folks, that is literally combat. You're battling against other investors to try to get the best rate of return while simultaneously minimizing the risk of loss. So it's complex problem solving when your financial life depends upon it. So how does some of the concepts of being a fighter pilot relate to investment management? So I'm going to teach you just briefly about what I would call the fighter pilot planning process. Before we go into any mission as a fighter pilot, we first have to understand the threat that we're facing, whether it be a surface-to-air missile threat or an air-to-air threat. We have to know what that threat's capabilities and limitations are. For example, with a surface-to-air missile, how far out there can they reach out and touch you? When are you going to do what we call trespass, where you go over into that threat ring where they can actually now harm you? How far out can the air-to-air fighters engage you, and things like that. So it's very important to understand the threat that you're facing, because if you don't understand the threat, the odds are not going to be on your side, right? You secondly want to understand what your own weapon system's capabilities and limitations are, and you want to maximize your own strengths against the enemy's weaknesses. Step one, threat analysis. So what is our threat? And we're going to explore this in these set of videos that you're going to be watching. The threat is market volatility, or you might put it another way and say market risk. So the threat is the market itself, the possibility that we could have a market correction or even a market crash. We want to understand what that threat is, which we're going to explore in these videos. We want to understand where the market is likely to be headed based on that threat. So we're going to cover this in video number 2. Secondly, we talked about this. We want to understand our own weapon systems, strengths and weaknesses. So just like in the fighter pilot world, where I flew the F-16, we had a certain mission to take out the surface-to-air missile threat. We had other weapon systems such as the F-15 Eagles, now it's the F-22, that's designed to take out the air-to-air threat. And then you've got other assets that go in, and once the threat is removed, they go in and actually put bombs on target or accomplish whatever their mission is. But there are other assets such as AWACS, which is a big airborne radar. The fighters have a very small radar. We have a limitation of how far down range we can see. So we rely on that big airborne radar to be able to tell us where the threats are. So, but that weapon system obviously has a limitation that it can't defend itself. So it relies on those other assets to defend it. But it takes all of those assets, the airborne radar, the surface-to-air the suppression of enemy air defenses fighters, the air-to-air fighters, the strikers, takes all of those to get the mission done. So in the financial world, each investment class or each investment product that exists out there in the investment world, each one has certain strengths and each one also has certain weaknesses. There is no one perfect vehicle that will maximize your return and minimize your loss and give you full access or liquidity to your money. So it takes a combined approach, just like we did in the military, to accomplish the mission effectively. And remember, the mission here is minimizing loss while maximizing gain. So we have to understand what the various weapon systems are that are available to us, whether they be annuities, hedging strategies, option trading strategies, artificial intelligence strategies. Each one of those has certain strengths and certain weaknesses, and we're going to explore that throughout this video series and show you how we combine all of those to achieve the optimal effect of max returns, minimal losses.